This is Mind Pump. Today's episode, we have master trainer of trainers, Jason Phillips. And we talk specifically about GLP-1s like Ozempic.
You've probably heard a lot about the drug Ozempic lately.
Ozempic.
Ozempic. It is literally the hottest drug in the country right now.
Is this going to crush the fitness industry? Now you can take something, just lose weight. What are trainers and coaches supposed to do when they're competing against something that essentially guarantees weight loss? Do they work with it, or is this the enemy? You're going to love this episode. This episode is brought to you by one of our sponsors, NCI. Now, they're going to hook you up. In fact, this month, they're going to give you one of their 4 masterclasses for free. So literally, you'll get it for free. All you got to do is this. Text the word masterclass to 615-813-6320. Now, this episode is also brought to you by Legion. Legion makes athletic performance-enhancing supplements for muscle building, fat loss, and recovery. One of the best supplement companies there is around there. And if you go through our link, you'll get yourself a discount. Go to buylegion.com/mindpump. Use the code mindpump. Get 20% off your first order or double rewards points if you're a returning customer. Also, this month's sale, MAPS 15, half off. The bikini bundle of programs, half off, or the shredded summer bundle of programs, also half off. Huge discount, one of the biggest sales of the year. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code June50 for the discount. All right, here comes the show. Jason, welcome back again to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Always one of our most popular guests.
Dude, sure. I appreciate that.
So Adam and I had this discussion on one of our episodes. I'd love to include you in this because I'd love to hear your opinion.
This is what Sal does when he's wrong. He goes to he keeps going to people and says, sooner or later,
we won't know
somebody's going to agree with me on this.
We won't know if we're right or wrong because we're watching this develop, right?
Yeah.
But for the
some validation
for the first time in that I can remember, the medical industry has created something that literally could shake everything up. I'm talking about GLP-1 agonists like semaglutide or brand names, Wegovy, Ozempic.
Yep.
I mean, the data is showing, you're going to lose 15% of your body weight. It's not a stimulant like the old fen-phen or whatever. Right. It works pretty much for everybody.
Yep.
Pretty remarkable. And the debate we had, the discussion we had was how it's going to impact like the diet industry, because are people going to want to work with coaches and stuff when they could just use a GLP-1 and they don't want to eat as much? How are you seeing this impact the space now, or what do you think it's going to do for coaches? Should they pivot? Should they work with them? What do you think?
Do I think they should pivot and work with them? Like, meaning, like, should
they learn how to work with these peptides?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, we're all extremely naive if we think that this isn't going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we understand big pharma is out to make money, and I don't care how many like dietary interventions have come into play in the last 15, 20 years, 100 years, whatever. People are still people and they want a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always say, we're at this like weird place in the industry right now where I think we understand more about the human body than we ever have. I think that's pretty undeniable, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Like physiology hasn't changed, like, biology hasn't changed. So it's not like the body has changed, but our understanding of it has clearly changed and we're way more advanced. Yet obesity is still at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, are people going to seek this out? Fuck yeah, they are. Like fat people are fat because they don't like health and fitness, right? Like I tell nutrition coaches all the time, I'm like, stop selling a diet. Like that's like going to an overweight person being like, you know what? Like I know you hate dieting, so give me money for like the one thing that you hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead, they're going to invest money in something they don't hate, which is they can still go out, they can still eat some of the things they want, and they can lose weight with these drugs. So yeah, I mean, do we like it? No. Like, well, let me rephrase. Do we like it? I don't know. And that sounds weird as like the owner of a nutrition company, but we don't know enough about it to hate it as much as we want to hate it. I think as an industry, we're so conditioned to want to hate anything that is not rational advice. But like, what do we not know about like GLP? Like there's a lot of things. In fact, like, do you know Mastin Kipp? So big mindset guy, right? Like really like deep into like psychology, like brain function, right? And I don't know this, but he told me there was peer reviewed data out there that shows that like GLP, he specifically said semaglutide, that it actually enhances or supports brain function.
Yeah.
And that there was like a lot of positive benefits for brain health coming from this.
I've never been so blown away by the potential of a medical intervention, and this is just all preliminary, right? So things could change, but what you said is true. So it doesn't reduce appetite by boosting catecholamines like epinephrine, and doesn't stimulate. It's not a stimulant.
Right.
It seems to change behaviors based off of how you tend to want to comfort yourself. So they're even finding people are not drinking alcohol as much, not smoking cigarettes, not biting their nails,
Other
like
impulsive behaviors.
So how can we not say that's positive?
yeah. Well,
Right.
and so there's two schools of thought here. One of them is, we're screwed because people are just going to take this and then everything's solved for them. I don't think it's going to solve everything.
No.
I think this potentially could be used as a remarkable tool that a coach can use to dramatically improve success, because you're still going to have to develop better behaviors. You can't just eat less.
You got to learn better behaviors.
Yes, and keep them, because the GLP-1s cause muscle loss as well. They don't cause muscle loss. The reduction in calories causes muscle loss and fat loss, just like if somebody went on a diet and didn't increase their protein and didn't lift weights. So they're still going to need some coaching. And if they want to go off, they're definitely going to need some coaching.
If I'm a coach, regardless of what's happening, I'm probably plugging myself into all of these clinics right now. Just knowing unequivocally your ideal clients are going there first. And it's not cheap. Like I don't know out of pocket what it is, but I know it's not cheap.
Yeah, no.
And so the people that quote unquote don't have money for coaching have plenty of money for GLP. And so it's like, all right, well, go plug yourself in, because while they're doing it, and I think a lot of, even when like the HCG protocols were popular, a lot of practitioners I think are very conflicted, because I have to assume the margins are astronomical, as with most things, pharma. And so if the margins are astronomical, I think that the provider is like, well, I need to make the money. But then they're like, well, is this really the right advice? And so I think they actually feel better plugging a coach in with it, because I think that coaching is far more readily accepted as the quote unquote right vehicle to weight loss success. And maybe we're living in this crazy time. What if 50 years from now, they're like, those fucking dickheads back in the early, 2020s, all they thought about was coaching, and they could have just been taking these supplements. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even know what's coming. And so there's a bit of zealotry on our own end to be like, we are the be all end all solution. I think that currently, relative to the data that we have available and the way that lives have been changed, I think we all agree coaching is the right vehicle. Yeah, right? I definitely think so, but we don't know.
Here's what this is why I love what you're saying, because there's always been in the training space, there's always been this strain of zealotry where it's like, I remember in the late 90s when I was a trainer, there were trainers who were like, supplements, no supplements. Yep. I'm anti-supplement. Everything has to be completely natural type of deal. And they would call it natural. If a GLP-1 was a herb, you wouldn't be hearing the same pushback, I think, from coaches, because they feel like, oh, that's natural, whatever. I think an effective coach uses all the tools at their disposal, so long as they're used appropriately for the right people.
I agree.
That's what makes you effective. Yeah. Not that they're all good for everybody. I'm not going to give everybody everything, but I'm going to look at the individual. And as a coach, I'm going to say, okay, here's all these tools that we have available. Which ones are going to be the ones that are going to help this person the most? And which ones are going to help me help this person develop this long-term relationship with diet and exercise?
Let me ask you this. How many coaches do you think are just right now turning a blind eye to it and labeling it as bad purely because of pharma?
Yeah, a lot.
And I think that
stupid.
Based on, just relative to what you were just saying, I think that a lot of coaches need to stop that zealotry and saying, oh, it's pharma, it has to be terrible. Right. They think they should be in a position where they're like, all right, I need to understand more. Yeah. And, candidly, before we started this, you were like, do you want to talk about GLP? And I was like, admittedly, I don't know a ton about it. I can talk about its role in the industry and things like that, but I have not gone into it. But that's because I don't practice a lot in the nutrition coaching space anymore. If I was still very active, it's something I would be researching. I would want to know why it's working, the effects, but more importantly, does this have any role in what I'm doing with my clients? Is there a way that this can aid my business, the people that are getting into it? Because whether we like it or not, it's not going anywhere for quite some time.
Today's YouTube giveaway is MAPS PED. If you want to win, do this. Leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. Also, this month's sale, MAPS 15, half off. The Bikini bundle of programs, half off. And the Shredded Summer bundle of programs, also half off. If you're interested, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show.
I think for somebody who claims they don't know a lot about it, I think you've communicated probably how it's going to play out the best.
Yeah.
And the argument that I had with Sal was that this isn't going to change anything, in my opinion. Like, it's going to be another tool in the toolbox. The game is going to be the same, though. And yes, it is the most groundbreaking thing that we've seen to date, as far as some sort of a supplement intervention that somebody could take. So yes, I think there's going to be massive adoption. I think the trainers that don't get on board and find out how to integrate it and use it are going to get left behind. Yep. I think it's going to be super valuable to other people. I definitely think there's going to be people that say, oh my God, changed my life, changed my behaviors, was amazing. But when you pull back and you look at the entire space, I don't think it's going to disrupt so much that it's going to put nutrition businesses out of business, or it's going to become the way that answers for it. You're still going to have to put the work in. You're still going to have to change behaviors. You're still going to have to figure out the root cause, what put the 100 pounds on you. There's too many things that you still will have to do in order to be a healthy person.
I mean, and maybe this is just me being a pessimist. I think if you look at the industry or you look at our world as a whole, if anything becomes that powerful, I think that our world is going to make it so exclusive and so difficult to obtain. Sure. It has no ability to disrupt the industry.
Sure.
I mean, like if this really becomes like the holy grail of like, holy shit, every single person that touches it can lose the weight they desire to lose the weight. It can retrain their habits. And like, it becomes this miracle drug that like, the fitness industry has said doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Bro, our fucking government's going to step in right away.
You know what's important? You know what I think is more powerful than you is stem cells. And they've done that. The government has banned it from the U.S.
We can't
have to go.
And so I just think that like, I think anything that has that level of power is not going to hit the mass market.
That's not going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. I strongly believe, if you believe all of the value of diet and exercise is weight loss, then maybe this will do that. But is that all the value?
Right.
It's not even close to all of the value. We've had this discussion before on the podcast where people would ask us, way before GLP-1s became a thing, they'd say, well, what if they invented a pill that made everybody fit and healthy? It still wouldn't give them all the value that you get from going along the journey and the things that you learn and the relationship you have with exercise and pain in your body and the self-acceptance and you're still not going to learn all the things you would have learned.
So I'm interested. So then does that help our industry or does it help other industries? Because I look at what you're saying and immediately as you're saying this, I'm in agreement, right? And I'm putting myself in the role of speaking with a potential nutrition client. And they always, whenever you say like, what do you want to achieve? I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to look better, right? And I'm always of the opinion, all right, snap my fingers. You go get on the scale. It's down 20 pounds. You look in the mirror. You see what you want to see. Are you happier? Initially, their gut reaction is yes, 100%, unequivocally yes. And it's like, all right, well, your husband doesn't look at you any differently. Your kids don't treat you any differently. Your friends don't compliment you every single time they see you. And, after a week, nothing changes. You just look a new way and the scale is the same. Like, are you still more fulfilled? And they're like, I don't know. Yeah. And so is that a nutrition coach? Is that a psychologist? Is that a therapist? Is like, so now are we looking at like, is the role of quote unquote coach, is it becoming more all encompassing? And I've always been of the belief that the answer is yes. I've always been, and I think all of us in this room think the role of a coach is far more than rep counter, number provider, macro provider. I think the reason we're all such good friends is like, we all know the real catalyst to change is all of the things that precede the dietary interventions.
100%.
I just made a point on the podcast that when you move to being an exceptional coach, it's when you learn how to detach your clients from the mirror and the scale.
Yep.
When you learn to teach them to attach all the work that they're putting in, the sacrifice with the food choices, with the going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, once you learn to attach those things to all the other things in their life, they're a better husband or wife, they're a better father or mother, they're better productivity at work, their energy levels are sustained through the day, their skin is better, their mood is better. When you learn to attach all of those things to the work they put into the gym and the nutrition is when you get to that level. And that has nothing to do with the mirror or the scale. That's the ultimate place anyways.
It is. And that's, I think, where people are going to, I think that's what people are going to start to realize. Like right now, if a coach is listening, if they're a new coach and they think, wow, I could be the most successful, effective coach if I could just make my clients less hungry. You're terribly wrong.
Yeah.
That's not the solution. That'll help. That'll help a little bit. It's like taking the edge off a little bit. So what I think these GLP-1s will do, they'll take the edge off a little bit, which is going to, it's like antidepressants for depression. Does it solve the problem? No, but it helps a little bit. Like if you're so dark that you can't even get off the couch, well, maybe a medication that gives you just enough to get off the couch, to do the things that really make those massive differences, like get on with your life and exercise and go outside and develop relationships. Well, now it's a tool that's been used in the right way. I think a GLP-1's like that. If you're a smart coach and you see this and you go, okay, this is going to help propel this person forward a little bit to help me do my job better. And it's now this incredible tool that's just been invented that I can use to help me be more effective. I think that's the smart approach. It's not going to crush, what we do.
So
but if you don't get on board,
let me ask an ignorant question. This is literally shows you how limited my research is on this. So GLP is only working with some dietary intervention, correct?
It works because it makes you eat less.
Okay.
So the dietary intervention happens.
So is this the first ever appetite suppressant that's been introduced?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like as we actually start to play this out, like we've seen this movie, right?
That's why.
And so like we've seen things take hold, and do I think it's probably better than those things? Sure. Do I think it's more advanced? Yeah. I mean, I love, like what Maston's saying, and like, I love the notion that it's improving brain health. I think there's probably a lot of upside here. Do I think that we're at the next level where there's going to be massive industry disruption yet? I don't. Like my gut says no right now. Again, very, very limited research. So I don't want to speak from a place of ignorance, but I think we're trending, man. I think we're trending towards a place where pharma or the industry, they're finding something, man. And there's something coming down the pipe.
I think if you're a good coach, what you want to do is you want to look at Ayurvedic medicine, you want to look at Chinese medicine, Western medicine. You want to use things like strength training, cardiovascular training. You want to look at mobility. You want to look at meditation, acupuncture, chiropractic work, body work. You want to work with conventional doctors and functional doctors. And now that's not for everybody. But you want to have those at your disposal, and you want to be the maven. The coach that's the maven, that's the guide. The guide that goes, hey, I'm coming to you, and here's my challenges, here's my issues. What can I do? And you go, oh, well, I've got this guy over here that works really well with this. Let's have you work with that a little bit. And so with the GLP-1s, I think what it's going to do is it's going to potentially make the coach more effective. I don't think it's going to take away. In fact, I'm excited about this because if coaches are open to that. Yes. That's the
I don't even know if I agree with that though, because one of the biggest the knocks on GLP-1s is the muscle loss.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things to teach a client is the art of fat loss while retaining muscle.
That's the coach.
So go even deeper, right? One of the hardest things to teach a client is that.
Yeah.
When you use the word client right now, you're using it in the context of somebody that up until very recently hasn't even had access to GLP.
Yeah. Right.
So now we're talking about a different avatar, because the avatar of somebody that comes in to use GLP is already somebody that is going to fight you on doing the things to preserve
That's
muscle
what I'm
loss.
saying.
So now we're talking about somebody that doesn't give a shit about that. And we're trying to teach them that in conjunction with them taking the quick fix of a pill or an injection.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think
they're
for
still under muscled at the end of the day.
For every client that it's going to be revolutionary or game changing from, it's going to present a challenging client that's going to make your job harder.
You're still going to need a guide, because obesity seems to be the smoke. The fire seems to be the fact that people are under muscled. That's what the data is now starting 100%. To show. You're better off being fat and strong than being skinny and weak. And so when you just eat less, as we all know, by the way, GLP-1s don't make you lose muscle. They make you eat less. If you just ate less and you didn't strength train and you didn't bump your protein intake, your body will adapt to that reduced energy intake by slowing its metabolism down. One of the primary ways it does is it pares muscle down.
Yep.
So what people are going to realize is that they're smaller, but they've lost muscle, maybe some strength, maybe some performance. It's not this panacea. So they're going to want some answers. They're going to need some coaching. And if it does change the brain in the sense that it makes people less likely to be impulsive, you can work with that as a coach.
I'm not sure I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think people are as aware as you're giving them credit for.
Yeah.
I think that if
I don't
because when you
I misspoke. I think we need to make them aware is what I'm
yes,
saying.
okay.
Yeah, but
because
now this conversation, Justin, are you here? Are you?
I'm here.
Does it
I'm
not sound like
listening.
he's like totally making the case that I was making? You're making the case that I made against you.
Well, no, we were
You're
talking
saying
specifically about Weight Watchers. By the way, I changed my mind when I saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
When I saw the strategy.
you did admit that.
I did change my
based
mind
on
when
your
I saw the
stance of
strategy.
that,
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we all are kind of saying and agree on is that it's just like I mean, it's you're still going to have challenges with these clients, and even though it potentially could really help. Like, let's say somebody has this crazy impulsive behavior around binge eating, right? The client who is not under eating calories, they are eating 5,000 calories and 3,000 of it comes from ice cream at midnight, and this GLP-1 breaks that. And it's like unlocks this potential to let go of that. It still presents the challenge of I got to get that person to go to the gym and lift weights. They got to still hit enough protein to hang on to their muscle. And so even though it's groundbreaking for them to break that habit, and maybe initially they see a scale go down by 15, 20 pounds, it's still going to need the nutrition education, the coaching, the mentoring, all that.
Let me ask this too. I mean, and again, this is coming from a place of ignorance. I don't think, at least to my knowledge, that GLP is being promoted as something you're going to take forever.
The data seems to show that you're right, that you go off and you probably gain the weight back. Although anecdotally,
even if you don't gain the weight back, like let's play it out that you go on and you don't gain it back.
Yeah.
Your habits haven't changed. Like, and this is what I really don't
You're just
think
eating
we
less than what you ate
understand.
before.
I don't think that the cognitive benefits are permanent. The same way the weight loss, in essence, won't be permanent.
Yeah.
Like, so this is coming from a former anorexic. We talked about on a previous podcast. At 39 years old, I still somewhat at times categorize myself as an anorexic.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say it's because it's anorexia nervosa, right? It's nervous system disorder at the core. And so I believe that my brain is wired as such to always have minor anorexic tendencies. Mm-hmm. Have I done a lot of like self-work and like things like that to improve that? Absolutely. Yeah. Do I think my brain is in a healthier place? I absolutely do. But it doesn't mean I don't still have the tendencies. Yeah. And so you're going to take these people, you're going to remove the stimulus of the drug, you're going to remove the appetite suppression, and we're going to expect that magically we've cured everything.
No.
And I don't think that it's going to happen.
No.
And so
it just provides a window, an opportunity
if anything,
to make different decisions.
Doesn't it just seem like it's a less invasive stomach staple?
Well, as we
gastric bypass?
As we keep talking, I think I'm hearing that it's just an amplifier of the current state of the industry.
So I'll bring up two things. One is, and this was from talking with Dr. Seeds, who's one of the leaders in research in these type of peptides. And when you develop new behaviors, so the way it's been explained to me is like if you look at like fresh snow, and you see how people have been skiing down one particular path, that pathway starts to get deeper and deeper. Yep. Those are the pathways in the brain. Yep. And the real deep ones are the ones that people naturally fall into. In order to create new pathways, you got to go through that fresh snow, and at first it's kind of hard, but then little by little you start to dig a new pathway, and then the old pathway starts to get filled in with snow. So you're going to have to learn how to develop these behaviors while under the assistance of GLP-1s in order for it to stick. Otherwise, if it's purely reliant on the appetite suppression, then you're going to go right back to where you were before.
The old behaviors remain.
Yes.
That's why, it's just like and I think that's how the coaches need to look at that as an opportunity, as a window for then getting somebody in the right state to then have the right intention going into the training.
With this being said, where are we teaching them about the new behaviors? Because all I'm hearing is that we're modifying behaviors. If I zoom way out and I think about behavioral change, it's the, for lack of a better word, abandonment or departure of previous behaviors, but it's the undertaking of the new behaviors.
Yes.
So does GLP magically fucking go to your brain and it's like, here's the right fucking new behaviors? Like that shit doesn't exist. So it's like, where's the professional that's coming in saying, here's the right behaviors aside from eat less?
All it does is take a little pressure off.
Right.
That and like any pattern, when you put pressure on a pattern, you tend to go into the pattern that you have developed.
Hardwired.
So it takes a little bit of pressure off. So it's no different than a bad movement pattern that someone develops through exercise. As a trainer, I know if I put them under load, they're going to go right to that bad pattern. For me to train a new pattern, I take the load off. We train a new pattern and make that one strong, and then I can add load, and now they have a new pattern.
Or we distract it with vibration, or techniques like that.
So the coaches that right now are looking at this and going, it's terrible, it's pharma. You're number one. What's going to happen is the consumer's going to look at you and say, "You're wrong. I lost lots of weight, and I solved this problem." Not really solving the problem, solving part of it. So that's number one. Number two, you're shooting yourself in the foot. I think as a coach, you got to look at this and go, "How can I use this to benefit my clients appropriately, or the clients that it's appropriate for?"
Yep.
If you can do that, I think you're going to be ahead of the curve. Otherwise, you're going to come across as the naysayer who was wrong, because the consumer doesn't really understand. All the consumer knows is, well, I dropped 20 pounds, so obviously you're an idiot.
Yeah, they see weight moving.
Yeah.
That's about it.
100%.
I mean, I think that you're going to see, the GLP crowd become just another crowd of zealots, right? Just like any dietary intervention, keto, fasting, carnivore, like the raving fans are the raving fans. And the more you go against them, the more they're going to stand up for what they believe in. And so, if you're a coach and you really think that this is going to be around for some time, which the data says it probably is for right now, not being willing to lean into it is you are absolutely artificially shrinking your total addressable market.
100%.
And if that's a business decision that you're down with because of a personal belief that you'll back it with, then like more power to you. But I would be hard pressed to find the one coach and that is, not a researcher, but like somebody that is truly living in the field of coaching that can go out and show me enough research that says like I should not be willing to plug in. Because again, like I'm not on top of my research game, but I haven't seen it.
I remember I had a client who was a psychiatrist and also did a therapist. And I remember we were talking about anxiolytics, so anti-anxiety medications. And at this time I was a younger trainer and I was like anti anything pharma, right? And so him and I got this kind of debate, and he said, "Sal, he goes, you're right. You could take an anxiolytic and then just always take it forever." He goes, "But my approach and the success I've had is when people are so crippled with anxiety that they can't go work out, they can't do the things that we know that will benefit them, then it makes a big difference. Then what I do is I put them on, and then we create these new behaviors, and then we take them off, and they've got these behaviors that stick with them, and then the anxiety's gone. Or maybe they stay on a low dose or whatever, because everybody's a little different."
Yep.
I think you're an idiot if you don't look at all the tools at your disposal.
So, okay, let's pull out of like the drug scenario and let's just look at fat loss through a different lens. I think we all agree that extreme calorie deficits are not the best thing in the world.
Oh yeah.
Right? Could we also agree that an extreme calorie deficit used for 2 to 4 weeks at a time, followed by a period at maintenance, does yield a decent result?
Sure.
Could we also argue that it might be advantageous for the mindset of a consumer?
Yeah.
So then are we really vilifying extreme calorie deficits? No, we're saying it's a tool in a toolbox.
Right.
And so here we are, and like we're looking at this through and I mean, shout out to, Bill Campbell and like the lab down at USF. They're doing research right now. We're getting ready to fund it. NCI is on rapid fat loss. Mm-hmm. And we're going to actually test pretty extreme calorie deficits paired with periods of maintenance calories.
So
to
short
test
periods.
Almost like intervals.
I think that makes evolutionary sense. That's probably how humans ate.
Yeah, right. I think it's. I mean, I completely agree. By the way, but is it really any different? Are we discussing anything different? But again, like I think that it's the stigma. It's the stigma that we're talking about a drug. We're talking about something that's been manufactured. Yeah. We're not talking about just behavioral control. Right. Effectively nutritional interventions. It's just behavior change, right? At the end of the day.
Are you seeing coaches now? I mean, kind of staying on the line of like using new tools. Are you seeing more and more coaches now use things like blood tests and nutrient tests? Because I wish I had that available. So when I was a trainer.
I have a really mixed opinion on that. So yes, to answer the question, yes, I'm seeing a tremendous amount of it. I also don't think it's great. So I think, as with everything, when used properly, it's fantastic. And I agree with you. I wish I knew more about it early. I actually went through a functional diagnostic nutrition program when I was early in the space, and it was so cost prohibitive for most people at the time to be able to order lab work, and I never ended up using it very much. But I think it's more easily accessed now. But now I think you're seeing coaches go online. We're like, oh, fear mongering, right? You're fat because your hormones are fucked. Like you're fat because your guts are fucked. And and I think we're seeing the pendulum swing too much. I think we're seeing coaches literally take something that, like you said, we all agree, man, like it would have been great to have access to these tools. They're instilling fear in the consumers. And I think that's a slippery slope. You know, what if we take that back to the GLP conversation and it's like, oh, well, if you haven't used GLP to lose your weight, like you're just slowing down. You're taking way too long. And like, what if that becomes the prevailing message? I think that controlling a narrative and making sure things are done properly at the right time, in the right sequence. You know, I don't think you or I would ever take an overweight person and immediately be like, oh, well, you're overweight because your hormones are fucked, right? Like, we're going to at least try some levels of interventions. Right. Now, if we see maximum levels of compliance and things just aren't adding up, might we dive deeper? Absolutely. But I don't think we're starting there.
It's all how you use it. It's like we with CGMs are like this too, like continuous glucose monitors.
Yes.
I think on their own, a person using it by themselves, reading their blood sugar, I think it's a waste of time. Yep. I think if you work with a coach and they can connect the dots for you, like, oh, your energy dip at noon, that was a blood sugar crash. And right here, you're anxious, blood sugar spike. Let's see what food is. And connecting the dots for the client, it's just now a tool that makes you that much more of an effective coach. But tools by themselves, I think, are largely a waste.
100%. And I mean, you know, like I know about lab work. When you go in and you look at labs, looking at one piece of lab work, like in isolation, doesn't tell any story at all, right? Yeah, like it's really not a story. It's a component. And yet, if you give people an isolated variable, they're like, oh, well, I'm going to make up my own story about it. And so same thing with CGM. You know, they look at one data point. Oh my God, my blood sugar is so high. Like, no, fucker, you just had like a fruit roll up. like no shit, your blood sugar spiked, you know? And so it's like, I wore a CGM. Dude, I became obsessed. It was actually a problem.
Well, for someone like you, see, this is a tool.
It was such a
I
bad
would not
thing.
have you use a tool like that because
it was so bad.
Your past.
Yes. It actually triggered those behaviors.
Did it really?
100%.
So what happened? What did you end up finding that with yourself? That you ended up just restricting more and more? Or sticking
because I would
foods?
literally just find ways to manipulate to bring the blood sugar down. And a lot of times it was like, and for me, a lot of it's like stress. Yeah. So it's like, I didn't do a good job of that. So I'd artificially bring it down by not eating or, it was, but just like the constantly being worried about what I was putting in my body, which anorexic behavior, right? Like,
great example of just a tool that's for the wrong person.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, the company had sent it to me for free and, they were like, just try it out. And I thought it was great technology. And I think I've had really good success using them with certain clients. Like I have a WWE wrestler right now getting ready for WrestleMania. I actually really want to use it in the off season with him. He's probably going to listen to this, so he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But like he's the epitome of somebody that struggles to ride the line of the right dose response of stress. And so it's like the more is better. And dude, like we're prepping for Mania now. We're 5 weeks out. And he looks the best he's ever looked at 5 weeks out. And it's like, yeah, you're controlling stress this year. Like he has like a full day off. He's he's actually working with Jay Ferrugia on his training. And he's got an appropriate dose response there. We've been able to feed him more. We've controlled the cardio. Like he's not overdoing it. He's like, this for the first time ever, I'm not going to overdo it. And like, dude, we're in an amazing place. And so, it all comes back to application, doesn't it? Right. Like, when I built NCI, I knew I couldn't reinvent the game. Like I couldn't manufacture new physiology or new biology or anything like that. But I knew that nobody had really spoken to application. And I think that if we're looking for educational protocols to evolve, we're never going to evolve the science, right? We may be able to speak to our understanding of the science, but what we're always going to evolve is the application of the science. And so if we're not keeping up to date with the GLPs, if we're not keeping up to date with the use of hormone testing, things like CGM, and we can't actively speak about their integration into what we're doing, then by premise, we're a fraud, right? Like, because that's the words that we took when we became a coach, is that we'll always look for the best application for the client. And if we're just turning a blind eye to it, if we're immediately refuting it because it comes from pharma, then shame on us.
Yeah, I remember figuring this out halfway through my career, because I think a lot of trainers and coaches also have the scarcity mindset where they're like, okay, well, I can't become an expert in this testing, and I don't know functional medicine. I don't have the time to learn it, and I don't understand peptides or whatever. And then they're afraid to send these people to other experts that they work with or that they know, because, oh my God, if they're spending money over here, they have less money to spend on me. I remember feeling that way. But then I remember thinking, look, I just want my clients to have the best success. So let's just lead with that. Here's what I found. Clients that worked with me, but that also worked with 1 or 2 or 3 other practitioners that I referred them to, because I ended up building a network, never left.
The lifers.
Never left.
Or the first to refer to you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, on top of it.
Right.
Oddly enough, by referring to other practitioners, you've now opened yourself up to referrals, which you just instantly grew your lead generation.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, but you're right though. Like, it's the scarcity mindset, but there's a scarcity mindset of knowledge. It's like, I remember when I first became a coach, my knowledge base was just from the people that had helped me through anorexia. And they were all very like bro diets, like, tilapia and asparagus and this and that, right? And so that was my knowledge base at the time. And had you told me in the very beginning that like you could do this macro thing, or like you could have like flexibility, and I'm like, fuck off. Like, my premise was that food was fuel, right? Because that's how an anorexic sees it. And so I was just like, there's no way. And I was unwilling to accept anything different. And I look back and it's like, what if someone's always like, what are the biggest mistakes you made? I don't think I ever intentionally advised somebody improperly. Like, I've never once like woke up and was like, you know what? I really want to fuck you up today. Like that was never, but like, so I don't really think I made quote unquote mistakes. I think I always gave the best of myself relative to my knowledge at that point. The mistakes I made were really being closed-minded to evolving my like toolbox, so to speak. And I think that that's what a lot of coaches have to now accept in this space, that there are new tools. It is rapidly evolving. Like, I'm somebody that hates tech advance because like I suck at tech. So like when I finally understand it, now I feel like I'm fucking 10 years behind. So I'm like, why can't we just stay the same? I mean, it's like, that's analogous to how nutrition coaches. Yeah, dude, I'm getting old, bro. But like,
updates.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's how nutrition coaches are right now. It's like, I don't want to adopt this new shit. Like, can't we just talk about food and behavior?
Here's how I think coaches should look at themselves. I think, and we did a 3-day course for trainers, and I touched on this a little bit. I think if you look at health, the professional health sphere, you can include quite a few things in that, right? You can include yoga instructors, strength training experts, you got nutritionists, you got functional medicine, physical therapists, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, meditation. Like, you could put like lots and lots of categories in this health sphere. And I strongly believe that the coach or the trainer is at the center.
Yep.
The coach and the trainer at the center who understands what direction to point and where to pull from to help this person. Because for a consumer, it's confusing.
Yeah.
If you're a consumer and you just want to lose weight or you want to improve your health and you go online, there's so many different approaches. Well, I got this acupuncturist over here that says that they could do this thing over here. And then there's herbs I can take, but then there's just like performance supplements. And then there's all these diets. And then I read that strength training is great, but this person over here says it's HIIT training. And this person over here says it's all about yoga because I'm stressed out or whatever. Like, imagine if you're that person in the center that they go to and they say, here's my challenges, here are my issues. Can you help me out? And you said, well, yes, I can help you out. And I also have access to all these other resources. And I'm going to use all the tools at my disposal to make sure that you find long-term success. You have made yourself so valuable as a trainer and a coach that you're irreplaceable.
Dude, now, I think that there's an important conversation that needs to be taught, though, to trainers on when to reach for that tool, right? Like, I think that one of the things that you have to learn to resist with that client, because what do you get this client and they have already been marketed to, they have already heard, and they're like, I heard about this. My friend's doing a GLP-1, and then my other friends got the glucose monitor. I want to try that, and like they want to try everything, or they've got a friend who's something changed their life. And I think that the real takeaway from the conversation that I'm hearing you guys are having right now is really that as coaches, I think our first and foremost goal is to apply like
the foundational stuff.
The basic.
That's why they're at the center.
Strength training, hitting your protein intake, having balanced meals, like things like that, sleep, stress, managing all those manageable buckets, behaviors around all those things. And then, and only then, when we've been applying that consistently, there's been adherence, and we can't figure out why we're not moving the needle. Now maybe I go to blood work. Now maybe I reach out to a glucose monitor. Now maybe I go over to GLP-1s. Like first though, teasing out all that, because I think if you try to do one of those as a shortcut, you'll eventually make your way back to the starting 100%. Line again.
I think there's very few universal rules in fitness and nutrition. I think that all the ones, like the few that there are all governed by one, which is that context is king. And so I think that if we're looking at the lens of good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, it's always situation specific. It's always going to be contextual. So how can we sit here and refute anything? How can we immediately outlaw anything and absolutely make the blanket statement that it's bad if we don't even understand the context by which we're talking? Like you're going to tell me that we get a 500-pound person and GLP could rapidly accelerate losing weight. And because it like doesn't support muscle or any of this, that like them getting like fucking 15% of that weight off faster is not a benefit.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Oh. And if that becomes a catalyst to the next phase, like sign me up all day, every day.
That's the point. So that's why I said that the coach is at the center, because the foundational fundamental stuff is what coaches know.
100%.
Activity, basic diet stuff, not like functional medicine diet or whatever, but like diet, exercise, sleep, managing stress, and then building behaviors around that. And then you look at the tools, either reach for them when the foundational stuff is not working, or reach for them to help support the foundational stuff. Like if sleep is a major issue and it's really hard and they're doing all the foundational stuff, turning off their electronics, not eating right before bed, this, that, and the other. Now you're like, okay, you know what? There's some herbs from Ayurvedic medicine that have been shown that help, temporarily with helping people get asleep, or maybe a little bit of melatonin may help with this particular individual, type of deal. That's why I said they're at the center.
The intervention needs to lead to the fundamentals.
Yes. Now that's how valuable trainers and coaches can be if they fully understood where they were in that wheel.
Well, Adam, you were kind of describing a client that gets shiny object syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imagine being the client and your trainer gets shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
Like put yourself in the client's shoes.
I think that happens a lot.
No, I do. Yeah. I think it happens in gyms a ton.
Oh my God.
Especially you get someone coming in and like 1 week they got their client on like a general strength routine, and then the next week that trainer is influenced by somebody that says HIIT is the best, and then
you're looking at three guys that did
CrossFit and
you're looking at three guys that did that probably for the first 3 or 4 years we were doing.
Bro, I watched when I ran the studio in Beverly Hills. I watch trainers do it every day. Yeah. I remember one time specifically, I was reading a muscle and fitness magazine, and for whatever reason, I just saw like this workout and it like stuck out in my head, and I walk in the gym and I see this trainer taking this client through the exact, and I'm like. And she was like a fitness model. Yeah. I'm like, I know for a fact you read that fucking magazine today. I'm like, I know you're literally implementing some bullshit from a magazine. But then
you add layers to this when you incentivize the trainers and coaches in this, because
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, because and I think that's part of what the problem is right now, is that if you pay them well off of all these products, it's really easy to want to default to that.
Well, dude, like the last time I was here, like the last episode, we talked about scalability, and I think that there's definitely there's a relative cap. I won't say an absolute ceiling, but there's a relative cap on scalability of coaching businesses and training businesses. Mm-hmm. And you're going to tell me that I can increase my average customer value by offering certain supplements? Fucking right. I mean, dude, there's Hormozy had Gym Launch, and then he had Prestige Labs. And so every gym owner that he put in there, he's like, well, you should sell these supplements. Here's a fat, and dude, they were paying out like fat commissions, like 40% commissions. And he's like, here you go. Everything you sell, you're getting paid 40%. You have no overhead on this, literally zero risk, just sell it. And it's like average customer value was going up every single day. Like I'm not going to say no trainer knew what was in those supplements, but I'm going to say that a large majority did not do the research.
24 Hour Fitness did it with Apex.
Yeah.
Apex did the same thing.
I'm gonna
Fit, Apex. Nobody gave a fuck. It was how much can you get paid?
I'm gonna generalize, but I think I can generalize safely here. The best business model for a trainer or coach is to get your clients long-term, sustainable, forever results.
That's not a generalization. Yeah, that's a fact.
I think because there's more that goes into it, right? Yeah. But I think that's it. Like if you lead with that, then you'll be able to resist the temptation of the quick dollar, because you'll know this actually, although I'll make fast money now, it's not going to lead to long-term success for me.
So I won't say you'll resist the temptation of the quick dollar. You'll take the money when it's the right money to take.
Sure.
And I think that's where a lot of coaches go wrong. And we touched on this previously. Like when I was here last time, it was like not every dollar is the right dollar. I would probably argue we've all made that mistake in this business, where someone's willing to pay you and you take it, or you can sell a supplement to them and you take it, and it's like the overarching rule, like the one thing we should all be chasing is this right for my client's results? And if the answer is yes and it makes you more money, amazing.
Sure. If
the answer is no and it makes you more money, then fucking say no.
Yes. That's got to be number one. It's funny, you were talking about all the different trends in gyms. I remember when I started in the fitness industry, 1997. Everybody kind of worked out. It was a lot of machines, a lot of aerobics classes back then. And then all of a sudden, I want to say maybe in 2000 or 99, there was this at the time functional workouts were became a thing. And I remember all of a sudden overnight,
functional back then was like standing on a boat.
Bro, hey, I remember looking around and all my trainers at this time, I'm a general manager. All my trainers are doing traditional exercises, except people are now standing on
a Bosu ball.
Yeah, or on wobble discs. Weird tricep press downs on one foot on a Dynadisc.
It got really out of hand.
And I remember looking at that going, okay, this isn't working.
That is what we would argue was the misapplication of something that was meant to be successful.
And it's unfortunate because there's some application to that stuff, and it's been bastardized so much that now we've gone away from
functional training in and of itself is fantastic.
If used properly, it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, like the human movement model, bending, twisting, lifting, carrying, squatting, like all great things that I think should be in programming. But, again, weight loss aids that have merit, that are safe, probably great in a lot of programs. But we're not going to tell every human on the earth that they should be doing functional training, whatever the bastardization of that means today. And we're not going to tell every human on the earth they should be on a weight loss drug. Yeah. Like it's always going to be situation specific.
If you had to start over as a coach now, besides, building your business, which is a whole nother conversation, but just in terms of how you coach people, which of these tools, or how would you look at these tools? How would you start off and say, okay, I'm going to learn about this, or I'm going to start working with this, or what were the first places you would go?
I mean, I would learn the basics first. Mm-hmm. I think the next thing, I'm of the opinion that hormones are a big player in the game. I think most like at NCI, like our whole premise is like almost all change is predicated on stress and adaptation. Mm-hmm. And so when we look into the inability to adapt to stress, it's largely hormonal. So I'd probably go there next. Then I would probably, and a lot of people are like thinking like gut, and I'm like, I think gut's extremely popular right now. Mm-hmm. So it's like not that much of a passion of mine, but that's probably when I would actually start looking more into the peptides. I think that it's an emerging science. I think that there's a ton of safety that is going to start coming with it because of how emerging it is. And I think I would want to be on the cutting edge of something. Now, you're asking me what would I research, not what would I use.
Yeah.
And so what I would use would be different. What I would use would be the basics. Then it would be the hormones. And I probably wouldn't use any of the stuff I was researching on the peptide side because it largely has no merit. But hedging my bets against the future, I would want to be on the cutting edge of that because I think it would give me the opportunity to be an industry leader.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I would do. I wish I could do, when I was a trainer, I wish I had access to blood tests and able to refer people based off those things myself. I used to send them out to other people who would do them. And I learned how to read them from there, but I didn't have access to, to those types of tests. So I wish I did. And hormones, I think, is absolutely. I think in combination with exercise and diet and lifestyle, number one, oftentimes you don't need to work with any hormone therapy if they do those things. But number two, if you do need to use hormones, it's a game changer. You mentioned the gut, which is interesting to me. I agree with you. when we first started the podcast, we started talking about gut health in our space, and everybody thought we were ridiculous. Nobody was talking about gut health. Now the pendulum swung so far that everybody thinks their gut health related issues are SIBO,
why they can't lose weight,
SIFO, or why they can't lose weight. You mentioned stress. There's a huge, and I'm learning this more recently, there's a huge interplay between the nervous system and your gut health, and you could treat yourself with all the antimicrobials and herbs and
you don't
elemental diets.
You ain't going shit.
Right. But if your central nervous system isn't working properly because of whatever stress or perception of stress or whatever you want to call it, it ain't going to happen. Nothing's going to fix.
It's funny because if you actually dig in and you research what a lot of these functional nutrition programs are teaching, it's like, well, here's how to cure hormones. Here's how to cure gut health issues. Here's how to, it's all stress reduction.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's the same shit
Reduce
we've been
calories,
saying.
Get better sleep.
Yeah. It's like eat a little more, sleep a little more, do a little less, do a little less intense shit.
Yeah.
Like, do some yoga, get your mind right. Yeah, get some sunlight. Like, weird. It's the same shit that would help you lose weight is actually fixing your hormones and fixing your gut. It's like this magical thing. And, I'm of the opinion that it's a lot of marketing hype right now. Like, I don't think that it's actually what it claims that it is. No, I went through a period of time where I needed hormone replacement. And I'm extremely grateful that there were good endocrinologists, and that they were able to advise me. But just like that, I ran into my fair share of shitty ones as well. And, people at that time, it's like, oh, he's got low testosterone. Like, let's put him on, less stress. Like, that might not have been the solution, So I think that it's always, I don't know how else to say it. And I think that it's probably the most overused and most cliche statement by successful coaches. It depends. It's context, right?
That's
like the two words at the top of your list as a coach should always be it depends.
Yeah.
Staying on the topic of like coaches and trainers, and you get the opportunity to talk to hundreds of trainers at a time, and have spoken many conferences. You speak online to coaching groups. And we did an episode earlier about how the space is changing. How is your conversation different today than it was just say like 2-3, like when you open up, right? You open up, you normally tell everybody F off and you do that. So how I
ask them why the fuck they're here.
Yeah. No, there's always an F word.
There's always a fuck. Yeah.
But I mean, do you have like an opening statement or a thing that is different today that you're trying to get across to these trainers?
I'll be really honest. I'm pretty much out of those rooms.
Oh.
And so that's a statement though, because I'm not actively researching how the industry is evolving as quickly, right? Like, I've brought in people that are the best at what they do. We've got Andrew Gerritsen, who's now the president of NCI, and we've got Alan Aragon, who's the chief science officer. Those guys are in the literature every day. And so my statement of you're not getting Jason Phillips at the front of the room is, if you want to create results, like, you need to fucking be good. Those guys are better than me, period. Like, that's the statement. And so if you're there and you're in the room, and like, just because my name or likeness might have sold you to be in the room, you shouldn't want me to be teaching that.
Sure.
You should want to be learning from those two guys.
Those are people that teach you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I learn from them every fucking day. And they're amazing. Like, they're great humans, but they're so talented and they love it. And so it's like, I think that is the statement. And I think that anybody listening to this, it's like, you got to understand, like, why are you doing this? Yeah. I get so much passion. I get so much joy out of seeing coaches reach their clients and facilitating change. And that's why I index more on the business side. Like, that's what excites me these days. Yeah. Right. It's not to say that I don't know the importance of it. I most certainly do, but I think there's just people better suited to do it.
Well, that's so connected to what Sal had just said earlier about us being in the center as the coaches and directing our clients to all these other resources of brilliant people in the space that can help your client out is no different. The difference is you're not helping fat loss clients right now. You're helping trainers and coaches build better businesses. Yeah. And instead of trying to be the guy who thinks he knows everything about everything, you've outsourced that to people that are far smarter than any of us, and you're helping them. It's the same model.
That's it.
So funny. It's such a great takeaway for trainers to understand that. And it is one of the things that we've been saying in this space since we started. I mean, I remember it all the way back to the gym space. It was the single thing that gave me an edge on all my other trainers was that I was willing to share and give and all the information I was learning. And at that time, they were all more experienced, more education. They were more fit. They were all older, wiser, more. I mean, they had everything.
But they stopped.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, as you're saying that, I'm picturing the people I used to work with in the gym, and like, I was probably very similar to you. Dude, I was learning every day.
Yeah.
And I might not have been reading textbooks, man. I was reading like, magazines, and I'm reading forums online, and I'm reading anything, but like, I'm doing my diligence, and I'm researching why people are saying this. And like, I'm soaking up absolutely everything. And so like, and I'm sharing it with everybody around me. Even the notion that I wasn't yet the smartest trainer there, people could see the passion, they could see the pursuit, and people want to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
They want to be in the conversation of the pursuit of something bigger.
Again, that you will become irreplaceable as a coach when you're that for your clients. The clients that have that relationship with you. It got to the point where I'd have clients with me for 10 years where they would ask me for a plumber or a mechanic, things outside of, because they trusted me so much with the people I referred them to. But they were lifers as a result. And I think that if you take that approach, whenever something comes on the horizon, you need to learn it and know how to either apply it or argue against it. Don't just right away go, because you're not doing anybody any good.
That's the mic drop statement right there. When something comes along, you need to either understand how to apply it or how to refute it. Yeah. And it's like, if you can do that, man, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in this profession.
Beautiful.